On the 11th of November 2008, a journey began marked by the release of Call of Duty World at War, published by Activision and developed by Treyarch. Being the fifth Call of Duty installment, World at War's iterations of the classic Call of Duty game modes, campaign and multiplayer, while decently acclaimed, weren't exactly game changers to the franchise. Yet hidden in this seemingly unextraordinary rendition of the famous war-based first-person shooter was a game that would revolutionize the series forever. Zombies. This out-of-nowhere, unfounded and unusual miniature game mode would rise from something hidden amidst the shadows of Call of Duty's towering legacy to become one of the most famously celebrated features associated with the franchise today. Call of Duty Zombies started as a humble and simple seed, a seed that over the many years of Call of Duty's lifetime flourished from a modest plant into a monolith tree, which in turn sprouted winding and expanding branches. From its early foundations, Call of Duty Zombies developed its own culture separate from the usual campaign and multiplayer, spawning a plethora of incredible music and soundtracks, cinematics, and of course a highly successful and iconic game mode, which itself has earned recreations and parodies all over the gaming world. Despite the Call of Duty franchise's infamous reputation for reproducing the same format over and over in its games, in truth, no game can survive without issuing some level of gameplay variety or change, and in the case of Call of Duty Zombies, some games offered bigger changes than others. Each individual map throughout every game in the Black Ops series, from the mundane to the most bizarre, brought its own fascinating changes to the Zombies game type. The effect that these maps all had on the evolution and trajectory of the game mode can be quantified by the number of unique features and evolutionary mechanics they produced. Moreover, the impact of each map can be measured by how influential its mechanics were over the series, such as the crafting mechanic first introduced in Black Ops 2 and its subsequent reuse throughout the rest of the Zombies saga. Further intriguing statistics and unique insight can be inferred by relating the impact of each individual map and each game, particularly as some games in the Call of Duty Zombies series were more popular than others. From the information gathered concerning innovative mechanics as well as newly established themes and features, a journey can be charted depicting the maturation of a game mode that went from a simple gimmick to something more creative. This more than a decade-long voyage outlining prominence and passion, experiencing rise and fall, the journey, the evolution of Black Ops Zombies. While Call of Duty World at War was not a part of the Black Ops series by name, a subject such as the evolution of zombies cannot be properly conveyed without addressing the site of the game mode's inception. World at War was released in 2008 as the fifth installment of the Call of Duty series. Back then, despite having already established 5 whole games, the Call of Duty franchise was technically still young, mostly featuring realistic First or Second World War-based single-player modes and competitive multiplayer modes. But it was from this dark and gritty world that the bizarre and whimsical journey of Zombies began, the birth of a primitive game mode that would eventually evolve into one of the most interesting and popular aspects of Call of Duty today. With each Call of Duty game, Black Ops and non-Black Ops, different audio styles and sound designs were incorporated. The sound design in World at War is specifically reminiscent of an older Call of Duty era, when the games were built with emphasis on historical accuracy. World at War's various Second World War-inspired weapons and technology sounded naturally old-fashioned, gritty, and unapologetically loud. On the 11th of November 2008, the first ever Call of Duty Zombies map is released with World at War, Nacht der Untoten. The map's dark and gloomy setting pitched an experience that was quite different to what players might expect from Call of Duty Zombies today. The bare concept of zombies has forever been inherently frightening. The distant, uncanny figure that slowly becomes more peculiar as it approaches, the deterioration of civilization at the hands of an unstoppable enemy, and the fear of inevitably succumbing to the hopeless, mindless, living dead. Naturally, with the release of each map and each new game, players would become more and more desensitized to this fear, and it quickly became less of a focus for developers making new maps. Mechanically, Nacht der Untoten is the definition of a humble beginning, featuring only the bare essentials indicative of a CoD Zombies level. Between the simple point system, power-ups, buying weapons, buying doors, and the zombies themselves, Nacht der Untoten is seldom mentioned for having complex mechanics, and instead thrives on its straightforward and undemanding gameplay, being the purest possible form of Call of Duty Zombies. But one mechanic in particular stands out in an otherwise unostentatious game mode, in the form of a curious, unassuming box. The mystery box has from the beginning been the ultimate icon for Call of Duty Zombies, and it represents part of what has set the game mode apart from other survival zombie games. There is an element of fantasy rooted in mystery, a theme that would carry into later maps and evolve to form the game mode's narrative. When using the mystery box, players are awarded a random weapon with varying effectiveness, a mechanic that would no doubt be attractive to players as it adds an exciting element of chance. In addition to the display of a weapon being selected, the mystery box lets off a unique chime. This chime is reminiscent of a music box, which are predominantly associated as being toys for children. This bizarre, seemingly unfitting choice of music alludes to a strange hidden connection between contrasting themes: the cruel and brutal reality of an undead presence, and the joyful mind of a carefree child. Ever since Nacht der Untoten, the CoD Zombies game mode has been famously round-based. After killing a set number of zombies, the round number increases by 1, and the difficulty of the next round is harder than the last. As there was no other set objective for players to work towards, this was originally the only measurement of a player's skill. The higher round you were able to reach, the better you were at zombies. This idea has been maintained within each new CoD Zombies release, but has been somewhat altered with each game. An argument exists that the more modern Black Ops maps incorporate mechanics that make it easier for players to reach higher rounds. In addition to a simple visual display of the ever-incrementing rounds, a short but perfectly themed tune is played. This bone-chilling 20-second track is split into two components, the end of the current round and the beginning of the next. The separate pieces perfectly encapsulate respectfully relief and then anticipation. The beginning component signifying the brief respite and moment's pause, just enough time to celebrate the player's success on surviving the round, before it is cut short by the more foreboding second half. The next round has begun. While often cruelly dismissed for its unrivaled simplicity as a map, Nacht der Untoten is iconic for being the first Zombies level of all time. It is, in fact, so famously celebrated by players and developers alike that the map itself has been refeatured in other Black Ops games time and time again, an old familiar relic reminiscent of the game mode's ancient roots. Nacht der Untoten is the flawless template upon which every future Call of Duty Zombies map will be based. It is the humble seed that will sprout and flourish, the infant child destined to grow. The mechanics debuted in Nacht der Untoten will continue to be featured in every map to follow it, forming the foundation upon which Call of Duty Zombies will evolve. On March 19, 2009, an entire 4 months after Nacht der Untoten, Call of Duty Zombies' second ever map was released on World at War, Verruckt. Even as early as Verruckt, it was clear that the Zombies game mode had taken off as a success, something akin to striking gold. With Verruckt, developers implemented a plethora of features to iterate and advance the game mode, taking Call of Duty Zombies literally to the next level. While each map in World at War could be considered primitive or limited when compared with other Black Ops games, Verruckt was a massive step up from Nacht der Untoten in terms of level design and mechanics. First and foremost was the addition of the power switch, a unique interaction used to open up special doors that could not be opened otherwise and give players access to other shiny new features. Alongside adding a whole new mechanic to the game, the power switch doubled as a change-up in level design, giving players something to progress towards rather than simply survive. While it could be argued that reaching the mystery box was the initial goal in playing Nacht der Untoten, the power switch was the first real objective, giving players something preliminary to aim for before focusing on surviving the rounds. With no conceivable restrictions around building upon the core gameplay from Nacht der Untoten rather than changing it, Verruckt added more bizarrely unique features that would become notable icons of the game mode. Juggernog, Quick Revive, Speed Collar and Double Tap, 4 perk machines available to players once they'd switched on the power. At an appropriate cost of points, these perk machines awarded players certain buffs in the form of a beverage, a mechanic so unusual and special to the CoD Zombies game mode that it would eventually look strange without it. Much like the mystery box, the perk machine struck that perfect balance between gritty realism and odd video gamey magic. As of Verruckt, the mystery box gained the chance of landing the teddy bear, signifying that the box was moving to a different location. This inconvenience to players added an actual risk to using the box, and it further forced players to adapt and move around the map rather than stay in one location, as they might have done in Nacht der Untoten. Lastly, Verruckt added the game mode's first ever traps. At a cost of points, players could use these traps to electrify and kill zombies, another simple mechanic that would quickly evolve and lead to the slaughter of copious hordes in inventive and exciting ways. As well as mechanical advancements, Verruckt was the site of a few quality of life upgrades and simple improvements to player immersion. Audio feedback in the form of remarks by the playable characters made the game more lifelike, and the various power-ups now earned an interesting voiceover effect.
Double points! Insta-kill!
Fascinating is the difference in evolution and innovation between each Call of Duty Zombies game and each map. The maps in World at War appear so simple and primitive in contrast with some of the Leviathan maps of later Black Ops editions. Yet even when each step seems small in World at War, they are in fact a colossal leap in innovation when compared with the evolutionary paths of World at War's successors. Consider a graph that displays the increase in innovation with the release of each new Call of Duty Zombies map, where evolution is measured not simply by the scale or size of the map, but by the number of new, influential mechanics it brings. In its early stages, such a graph would appear almost exponential, with Verruckt adding a multitude of fresh new mechanics and an evolved level design. Verruckt's level design did stem from Nacht der Untoten, wherein players have the choice between two paths, the door or the debris. Verruckt placed a twist on this by separating players into two much larger paths, both leading to the power. So early in the development of Call of Duty Zombies, Verruckt stumbled upon a level design blueprint that would be used in the majority of future maps, often with some degree of iteration. Giving players the goal of finding and activating the power certainly seemed more interesting and stimulating than simply surviving against infinite zombies for as long as possible. This shift towards objective-based gameplay rather than survival-based gameplay would too evolve with future map releases and spark some of the game mode's greatest successes. Verruckt was a splendid sequel to Call of Duty Zombies' first ever map. Much like what Black Ops 1 was to World at War, Verruckt succeeded in building on its comparatively uncomplicated predecessor with new mechanics and improvements on the mechanics that already existed. Not only did Verruckt iterate tremendously on the game mode, it opened the pathway to future iterations by adding to the CoD Zombies core template. Mechanics such as the perk machines and the power switch, with such simple, basic gameplay designs, gave the game mode even more opportunity and potential for evolution. Call of Duty Zombies has always strived to bring players to widely diverse and interesting locations, ever since World at War. The dank, gloomy night at the moonlit bunker distinctly contrasted the dry, sun-hazed asylum. Next, in June 2009, 3 months after the release of Verruckt, zombies would go to the wet, marshy swamp of Numa. By the end of World at War, the Zombies game mode will have established a visible identity, standing out distinctly from Call of Duty's other modes. Numa helped take a huge step in this direction by adding defined playable characters, whose names were featured on the map's loading screen. Takeo, Dempsey, Nikolai, and Richthofen. These 4 characters were not only distinguishable by race, but had perceptibly different personalities, shouting out different remarks as players enjoyed the game.
The Wunderwaffe DG2, my greatest invention!
My weapon cannot continue to fire without rounds!
What are you, fucking Rasputin? Stay dead this time!
Numa brought all the core mechanics from Nacht der Untoten and most of the built-upon mechanics introduced in Verruckt. Rather than keep all the same mechanics, Numa iterated a little differently, accentuating the freedom that developers must have had to change the game mode and experiment however they pleased in Call of Duty Zombies' earliest days. The mechanic in question that Numa did not carry from Verruckt was the power switch, and the map opted instead for a new mechanic, one that has for the most part not been replicated in future maps. Upon buying a door in any of the 4 particular locations in Numa, the game would spawn in a random perk machine out of Juggernaut, Quick Revive, Speed Cola, and Double Tap, available to purchase immediately as a result of the map not having a power switch. Though this new mechanic was certainly fresh and different and brought more excitement and chance into the game, the mechanic made playthroughs too unpredictable for it to be reused in other maps, or at least in the same way as in Numa. Despite this, the map didn't fail to follow in Verruckt's success by implementing new mechanics that iterated and evolved the Call of Duty Zombies formula. The addition of the Hellhounds in Numa helped to switch up the most core aspect of the game, the zombies. Every 5th or so round was replaced with a Hellhound round, giving players a break from the familiar mundane zombie hordes to deal with a blaze of dogs, a mechanic so successful the few later maps would do without it. More popular still than the addition of the Hellhounds was COD Zombies' first ever wonder weapon. While the iconic ray gun is technically categorized as being a wonder weapon, it is not quite as deserving of the title as the Wunderwaffe DG2. Unlike the ray gun, the Wunderwaffe would kill zombies at any round, regardless of how much health the zombies had. Such power was unprecedented before Numa, and since the mystery box could only yield 1 Wunderwaffe per game, it would often be a race between players in co-op to see who could get it first. Numa blessed the mystery box with a beacon of light to indicate where it was at any given time, another subtle detail that has simply come to be expected in maps as part of the game mode, proving more and more useful as maps continued to grow larger and larger. Numa was the first map to exhibit terrain hazards, elements of the terrain that inhibited or otherwise negatively affected players. Parts of Numa's swampy composition would slow the player's movement speed, creating more situations of vulnerability and intensity. This mechanic, simple as it may have seemed, would survive far and beyond into the future of zombies, reappearing for example as fire or mud. Finally, Numa featured the first mode of additional transport, the zipline. This modest contraption merely moved players from one location to another, but primitive as it may have seemed, the zipline in Numa was the very first of all unique player transporting methods, from teleporters to dragons. The earliest stages of any game or game mode's development is rich with freedom of creativity, experimenting with what works and what doesn't. By chance, Verruckt's level design proved to suit the Zombies game mode perfectly, and would inspire the map layouts in the majority of COD Zombies' future maps. However, Numa's level design would leave a different legacy. After buying the first door, players were given access to a larger hub-like area offering no less than 4 doors that led in 4 different directions. This much larger array of doors directly opposed Verruckt's more limited selection, wherein players simply bought one door after the next in a more or less straight line. Numa's new level design indicated a gameplay shift towards player choice and freedom, rather than coercing players to go in a particular direction. Much like Verruckt, Numa added a multitude of exciting new mechanics to the mode that would become accepted parts of the core game, while also adding necessary iterations and upgrades to the ones that already existed. The 4 new playable characters succeeded in allowing the game mode to stand out more on its own. Its true identity was beginning to form. But of course, the game mode still had plenty of room to expand and grow. It has long been tradition that the final DLC of any CoD Zombies game be the most climactic, a map that pushes beyond the conventional boundaries, that offers the best aspects and features from previous maps and ties them together to form a satisfying conclusion. Nacht der Untoten, Verruckt, Numa. So rapidly had the game evolved that by the 3rd map, the Zombies game mode had reached the precipice of having its own clear identity, standing out from campaign and multiplayer. World at War's final DLC would become the ultimate template upon which all maps following would be forged. Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4, and everything in between, they all inherit from Riese. Only 2 months after Numa, on August 6, 2009, World at War ended the original quadrilogy with a map that truly packed a punch. Compared to its 2 predecessors, Verruckt and Numa, Riese statistically added the least number of features to Call of Duty Zombies. But as far as Riese is concerned, bigger things come in smaller packages, and the quality of the features added in Riese far outweighed the quantity of the features added prior. Most noteworthy was the Pack-a-Punch, World at War's final gift to the game mode, the missing piece that secured the mode's future. As unassuming in appearance as its fellow perk machines, the Pack-a-Punch gave players the power to upgrade any weapon in otherworldly fashion, replacing their bullets with lasers. Capable of such unrivaled power, unlocking the Pack-a-Punch became the automatic goal for players in any playthrough of Riese, indicative of the game mode's shift back towards objective-based gameplay after Numa. The method through which the Pack-a-Punch could be unlocked involved Riese's other signature new feature, the teleporters. Though an obvious far cry from Numa's zipline, these mechanics were rooted in the same concept, moving players from one location to another, though Riese accomplished this in a much more stylish and exciting fashion. Strange futuristic teleporters have since become an icon famous to the CoD Zombies genre, and have remained a staple element of the game mode, reappearing in so many maps, often in the exact same way as in Riese. Between the addition of the similarly famed monkey bombs, Bowie knife, and the new power-up Carpenter, Riese's list of new mechanics to Call of Duty Zombies ended there. Riese did not succeed on exemplary new mechanics alone. Hints of the game mode's story were hidden in posters and radios sprinkled throughout the map, intriguing players into the map's mysterious lore.
Stand up. Stand up! Good. Look at me. Activate power. Oh my God. Edward, tie the damn thing down! We can't have it running around during the test!
Daddy, what did you do? Daddy!
Come back here, Samantha! Stop her! Easy! Come here, Samantha. Good girl, Lottie. Gently.
These smaller, seemingly insignificant additions helped improve on immersion and atmosphere, making the game feel more alive than ever before. From Nacht der Untoten to Numa, Call of Duty Zombies had evolved astronomically. The game mode had nearly everything it needed, and finally, with the unleashing of Riese, the perfect template had been achieved. The map celebrated everything that the game mode had introduced before it, while adding exciting new innovations that made it stand out as the apex specimen of World at War. Riese is the backbone of Call of Duty Zombies, an inspiration whose ancient origins can be attributed to the behemoths to come. World at War provided the first step, the healthy sapling surrounded by infinite rich soil. All it could possibly do now was grow.